How many times a day do you find yourself glancing at your phone's battery icon? Just wishing for a little more juice. Or, worse, actively searching for a charger because you're in the red.
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle, isn't it?
It really is.
Well, today we're diving deep into the rumored world of the iPhone 17 series. We're specifically focusing on its battery innovations and what these potential changes could mean for your daily usage.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we've pulled together quite a stack of sources. We've got the latest articles, some in-depth research, and our own notes on everything from, capacity and efficiency to charging.
Right.
Our mission, basically, is to cut through all the noise and just extract the most important nuggets of knowledge about Apple's evolving battery strategy for the iPhone 17. It's everything from these potentially massive capacity jumps to some surprisingly ultra-thin compromises.
And battery life is key.
Absolutely. As our sources consistently highlight, battery life truly remains maybe the paramount deciding factor for consumers.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The biggest rumor making waves, a 5,000 milliampere battery for the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, for years, Apple seemed to prioritize thinness, sometimes, maybe even at the expense of raw battery capacity.
Yeah.
If this rumor holds true, what does this significant capacity lead truly signal?
Well, it signals a pretty profound shift, I think. The rumor about a 5,000 milliamp capacity for the 17 Pro Max is remarkably reliable. It's been corroborated by multiple trusted sources, including that well-known Weibo leaker Instant Digital.
Okay.
And if this actually comes to fruition, it would indeed be the largest battery ever featured in an iPhone. That marks a significant milestone for Apple, really acknowledging a core user demand.
And the figures you've pulled, they really put this into context. When you compare the rumored 5,000 milliampere to, say, the iPhone 16 Pro Max's 4,685 milliampere, or even the 15 Pro Max's 4,422 milliampere, that's an increase of over 300 milliampere. It's not just a small tweak, it's a substantial boost.
Exactly. And that additional capacity, it translates directly to real-world usage. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is projected to offer around 35 hours or maybe even more usage on a single charge.
Wow. 35 hours.
Yeah. To compare, the 16 Pro Max was around 33 hours, the 14 Pro Max, 29 hours, the 13 Pro Max, 28.
Right.
And the iPhone 12 Pro Max, by contrast, only delivered about 20 hours. So we're looking at a tangible, really significant leap in endurance for the Pro Max line.
And this larger battery, it's reportedly enabled by a slightly thicker design for the 17 Pro Max, right? I think the numbers were 8.725 millimeters compared to the 16 Pro Max's 8.25.
That's the rumor. A small concession in thickness, like you said, for potentially a major gain in battery life.
So it's a trade-off.
It really is a strategic pivot for Apple. They've traditionally relied heavily on software and chip efficiency to optimize battery life, often prioritizing that slender form factor.
Yeah, thinness was king.
It seemed to be. But with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, they're clearly showing they might be willing to make it thicker to house that larger battery. It shows that maximizing usage time has become a primary goal, at least for this particular model.
And likely a response to users.
Almost certainly a direct response to consistent user feedback and, let's be honest, the competitive landscape. What's particularly fascinating here is that 5,000 milliampere, well, that's pretty much been the default capacity for flagship Android devices up until recently.
Good point.
So this suggests Apple is, maybe indirectly, acknowledging and responding to a long-standing competitive benchmark that Android phones have set for years.
That acknowledgement of the Android benchmark? Yeah, that is telling. For Apple to move towards a thickness that allows for 5,000 milliampere, a standard Android has held. It really signals a pivot. But what does this mean for Apple's whole innovation narrative? Are they now playing catch-up, or is this just a calculated move to meet user demand before maybe innovating elsewhere?
That's a fair question. I'd argue it's probably less about playing catch-up and more about acknowledging a fundamental user expectation, especially in that premium segment.
Okay.
By meeting this baseline capacity, Apple is effectively removing a competitive disadvantage for their highest-end model.
Right.
This frees them up to maybe innovate in other areas, perhaps focusing on the user experience around that extended battery life or new features that only become practical with that kind of endurance. It's about optimizing the whole package, not just rigidly sticking to one design principle.
So less about chasing numbers, more about the overall experience.
Possibly. And if you look back at the Pro Max line's historical capacities, I mean, the iPhone 11 Pro Max was under 4,000 milliwatt.
Right.
Then you saw jumps with the 13 and 15 getting to 4,685 for the 16 Pro Max. This rumored, 5,000 milliwatt for the 17 Pro Max definitely sets a new standard for their line. It brings them into a new era of battery focus.
That makes perfect sense. So, okay, with the significant shift for the Pro Max, What does this mean for the rest of the iPhone 17 lineup? Are we seeing similar battery boosts across the board, or is Apple diversifying its approach?
Oh, they're absolutely diversifying. The rumors suggest varying capacities for the other iPhone 17 models, and it's really important to note there are some discrepancies between sources here.
Ah, okay, so grain of salt time.
Exactly. Highlights the speculative nature of these early leaks. One source, for instance, projects the standard iPhone 17 at around 3,600 milliwatt, the iPhone 17 Air around 2,800 milliwatt, and the iPhone 17 Pro maybe 3,700 milliwatt.
2,800 for the Air. That sounds small.
It does. And then another source gives slightly different figures. 17 at 3,877 milliwatt, the Air at 2,815 milliwatt, the 17 Pro at 3,985 milliwatt. And interestingly, their iPhone 17 Pro Max figure is 4,839 milliwatt, which actually contradicts that more vividly reported 5,000 milliwatt rumor.
Huh. Okay, so definitely some conflicting info there.
Yeah. So while the Pro Max figures seem pretty solid, you should approach the others with a, let's say, healthy dose of skepticism for now.
Got it. And the iPhone 17 Air, that's expected to replace the Plus model, right? And the rumors are it's going to be ultra thin, like 5.5 millimeters thick and weighing just 145 grams.
That's the chatter.
So the Air sounds like Apple's fashion statement phone, sleek enough to practically disappear in your pocket. But maybe not quite enough juice to get you through a full day of scrolling TikTok. A real dilemma for the style conscious.
You've absolutely hit on the core trade-off there. That super slender design, well, it comes with a significant compromise in battery capacity.
Yeah, that 2,800 milliamp.
It's substantially smaller than last year's base models. It would make it one of the smallest batteries in a modern iPhone, actually.
Wow.
And internal tests reportedly show that maybe only 60–70% of iPhone 17 Air customers might be able to use the device all day without needing to recharge. Compare that to maybe 80–90% for other iPhone models.
Oof, that's a big difference.
It is. But to compensate for that smaller battery, Apple is reportedly working on advanced silicon anode battery technology, specifically for the iPhone 17 Air.
Silicon anode. What does that mean in simple terms?
Basically, it means using a new material inside the battery, in the anode part. This new material lets them pack roughly 15–20% more power, more energy density into the same physical space compared to traditional lithium-ion.
Ah, okay. So more power in the same size battery.
Exactly. But this technology is believed to be only just ready for mass production, and the rumors say it will initially be limited just to the iPhone 17 Air, which is, a pretty big deal if it works out.
Interesting. Okay, and then there's the standard iPhone 17 Pro. That's expected to keep similar dimensions to the 16 Pro.
Yeah, that's the expectation. And its rumored capacities range from 3,700 milliwatt up to nearly 4,000 milliwatt, depending on which source you lean on.
So still a decent size, but not the Pro Max level.
Precisely. And the stark contrast between the 17 Pro Max potentially getting thicker for that 5,000 milliwatt battery and the 17 Air going ultra thin with a much smaller battery. It really indicates a clear, intentional product segmentation strategy.
Right. Tailoring things.
Exactly. Apple seems to be moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach to batteries. Instead, they're tailoring capacities and design trade-offs to suit specific user priorities for each model. Maximum endurance for the Pro Max, optimal thinness for the Air, and sort of a balanced approach for the standard and Pro models.
Okay, but, the sheer capacity isn't the only battle Apple's fighting. The real magic, and maybe the real challenge, lies in how efficiently they can use that power. And that's where things get really fascinating, right? Beyond just the milliamp hours, what else is Apple doing to squeeze every last drop of battery life out of these devices?
That is such a crucial point, because raw capacity is only half the story. Chip efficiency plays a massive role here.
The A-series chips.
Exactly. The iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max are expected to feature Apple's new A19 Pro chip. It's reportedly built using TSMC's advanced 3nm process, which basically means smaller, more power-efficient transistors packed in there.
Smaller means less power draw, generally.
Generally, yes. And the standard iPhone 17 and 17 Air will likely use the new, non-Pro Apple A19 chip. Both chipsets are predicted to bring significant improvements in performance, yes, but more importantly for this conversation, better battery efficiency.
What else on the hardware side helps?
Well, other hardware contributions could include rumored Wi-Fi 7 support and potentially more efficient custom Apple 5G modems like the C1 modem, rumored for the 17 Air specifically. Better radios should reduce power consumption during network operations.
Okay.
We're also expecting new OLED display panels, the M14 panels they're called, with lower power consumption across the entire lineup, and the expansion of promotion, that adaptive refresh rate.
Yeah, up to 120 hertz.
Right, and the always-on display technology finally coming to the standard iPhone 17 and 17 Air as well,
Oh,
all intelligently designed to conserve power when, you don't need the full refresh rate or a bright screen.
and of course, software optimization. That's always a massive part of Apple's strategy.
Yeah.
I saw something about iOS 26's adaptive power feature.
hmm That sounds particularly clever.
Mm.
It's supposed to make small performance adjustments, maybe slightly lowering display brightness automatically, or slowing down background activities just a bit, all to extend battery life when your usage pattern suggests you might need it.
Smart. And then there's the AI angle, Apple Intelligence.
Right. It's all about intelligent management. Apple Intelligence, expected to debut with iOS 19 or possibly iOS 26, depending on the source. It's rumored to analyze your usage patterns much more deeply.
How so?
Well, it could automatically reduce background activity or even lower performance for specific apps when it knows you're not actively using them or when the battery is getting low. This kind of AI-driven management could be particularly beneficial for compact devices like that iPhone 17 Air, where every single milliamp hour is absolutely critical.
That makes sense. Squeezing efficiency out of a smaller battery.
Exactly. And going back to that new battery tech for a second, that 2025 iPhone 17 Air is specifically the one rumored to utilize that advanced silicon anode battery tech from Japan's TDK.
Right, the 15–20% higher density one.
Yeah, offering that higher energy density in the same physical size. Now, while it might be limited to the Air initially, it's highly likely to spread maybe to the iPhone 18 Pro Max in 2026 if it proves effective and scalable.
Future tech starting in the air.
Seems like it. Also, worth mentioning, all iPhone 17 models are expected to continue using stacked battery technology. That's something they've used before. It just makes batteries denser and a bit more thermally stable.
Okay, so lots of factors beyond just the size number.
Absolutely. It's really important for you, the listener, to remember that real-world battery life is influenced by so many things. Think about screen brightness and display size, huge power consumers.
Definitely.
Processor efficiency, like we just discussed, your app usage and background activity, especially those apps constantly refreshing, like social media, they just drain power. Even your network connection being on 5G constantly uses more battery than being on Wi-Fi. And of course, battery health degrades over time, and things like extreme temperatures can affect performance too.
It's a complex equation.
It really is. And this is why Apple is increasingly relying on software and artificial intelligence to manage and extend battery life. It's particularly crucial for models like the iPhone 17 Air, where hardware constraints limit the physical battery size. It really suggests that raw Mac is only part of the equation. Intelligent power management is becoming equally, if not maybe even more, important.
Okay, so let's say you've exhausted all those milliamp hours and efficient processes. What about getting juice back into these new batteries? Are we finally seeing some ultra-fast charging speeds, or is Apple sticking to its, let's say, more conservative approach?
Well, when it comes to wired charging, the speeds will likely remain capped at around 27 to 30 watts, pretty similar to the iPhone 15 and 16 series.
So about 90 minutes to 100 minutes for a full charge, roughly.
Yeah, roughly in that ballpark. Now, there is one rumor suggesting the standard iPhone 17, not the Pro, could support a faster 35W wired charging. That would be a nice little improvement if it happens.
Okay, slight bump, possibly. And they'll all use USB-C still.
Yes, all iPhone 17 models will utilize USB-C with USB power delivery. That's consistent with recent models, mandated in some regions anyway.
Right. And wireless charging. Yeah, still the same 15W with MagSafe that we've seen for a few generations now.
That's correct. For MagSafe, yes. 15 watts. However, there's a long-rumored feature, 7.5W reverse wireless charging. It's finally expected to arrive.
Oh, really? Finally?
Finally. At least on the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max models, according to the rumors.
You can charge your AirPods in the back of your phone.
Exactly. No more trying to find a power outlet for your AirPods when they die mid-commute. It's, maybe a small convenience on paper, but it could be a huge relief for anyone who's been caught out like that.
Definitely been there.
Yeah, this would allow users to charge accessories like AirPods or an Apple Watch just using the back of their phone. It brings Apple in line with many Android flagships, which, frankly, have offered this for some time now.
Good point. It felt like a missing feature.
It did. But notice, even with the iPhone 17 Pro Max's rumored significant battery capacity increase, those wired charging speeds are still pretty modest compared to some Android rivals that boast, 100W plus charging speed.
It's crazy speeds on some phones.
Right, and this implies that Apple is likely still prioritizing battery longevity and overall battery health using slower, more controlled charging over those ultra-fast charging speeds that can potentially degrade battery health a bit faster over time.
A strategic choice then. Longevity over speed.
Seems to be their philosophy, yes.
Okay, so considering all these changes, the bigger Pro Max battery, the ultra-thin air, the efficiency gains, the charging updates, what does this all mean in the broader smartphone landscape? How does the iPhone 17 stack up against its Android competitors in this ongoing battery battleground?
Well, that 5,000 milliampere capacity for the iPhone 17 Pro Max, if true, finally brings it basically in line with what's been the default capacity for many flagship Android devices for a while now.
Parity, almost.
Almost. However, it's worth noting that some Chinese Android brands have actually already surpassed this figure. They're utilizing newer battery chemistries, like silicon carbon, to exceed 5,000 milliampere.
Ah, okay. Pushing boundaries already.
Yeah, but Samsung and Google, they typically remain around that 5,000 milliampere mark for their flagships, so Apple would be right there with them.
And on the other end, the Air.
Right. On the flip side, the iPhone 17 Air's potentially smaller battery, maybe around 2,800 milliampere, contrasts really sharply with some slim Android rivals. Like the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge is rumored to feature maybe a 3,900 milliampere battery while still maintaining a pretty slender profile, so the Air is definitely an outlier there.
And let's face it, long battery life has consistently been one of the most common complaints from iPhone users for years, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Year after year.
It seems Apple is finally giving this the kind of attention users have been asking for, especially with that Pro Max.
It absolutely feels like it. The rumored increase in battery capacity, combined with all the efficiency improvements from the new chips and the software optimization, it directly addresses this core concern. The goal seems to be providing what Apple hopes you will feel is true all-day battery life.
That 35-plus hours projection for the Pro Max.
It represents a significant step forward in alleviating those battery anxiety worries. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Apple's battery strategy, particularly for the Pro Max, looks focused on achieving that competitive parity with Android flagships in raw capacity, while continuing to try and differentiate through their integrated hardware-software efficiency and these emerging battery technologies like silicon anode.
Right, the whole ecosystem approach.
Exactly. So just to summarize, the iPhone 17 lineup, based on these rumors, is projected to bring some significant battery life improvements through a multifaceted approach.
Yeah, let's recap the key bits.
Okay, you've got the rumored 5,000 milliampere Pro Max, the big one. Then the strategic trade-offs for the ultra-thin air, using new tech potentially. Enhanced chip efficiency with the A19 and A19 Pro chips.
Right.
Intelligent software optimization via iOS 26, or whatever they call it, and Apple Intelligence, and the exciting adoption of new battery technologies like that silicon anode, starting potentially with the Air.
So these advancements, they really promise a notable improvement in real-world battery life. It directly addresses that long-standing user demand for just longer usage times between charges.
Hopefully.
And that reverse wireless charging on the Pro models, even if it's not super fast, feels like a key step forward for the whole iPhone ecosystem. Just adds that much-needed convenience.
I agree. And looking further ahead, the initial deployment of silicon anode technology, if it happens in the iPhone 17 Air, suggests a pretty clear roadmap for Apple. They could integrate higher energy density batteries across their entire lineup in the coming years.
So this could just be the start.
It could be, potentially changing what we expect from battery life across all future iPhones down the line.
Which raises an important question for you listening. Given Apple's apparent new focus on balancing raw capacity, ultra-thin design, and intelligent software optimization, which of these priorities resonates most with how you use your phone day to day? Is it max battery? Is it sleekness? Is it the smart features?
It's a good question. Different users, different needs.
Exactly. And of course, it's crucial to remember this is all speculative for now. All current information is based on leaks and rumors until Apple makes their official announcements, which typically happens in September. But for the iPhone 17, we're looking at September 2025.
Long way to go, but the picture is starting to form.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.